Hello, dear ladies, dear gentlemen, to Hellenic Echo, a bilingual web radio show presented in Solomos Web Radio TV by Sissy Sigioultzi-Rouka in English and Greek, where we talk about Hellenism, Greek language, letters, art, culture, civilization, and sciences dedicated to all Hellenes living abroad, as it serves as a vital link to our cultural roots and heritage. So, today we are going to travel in the world of poetry of Konstantinos Cavafys, and we have many things to share together. Che fece il Gran Rifiuto by Konstantinos Cavafy. For some people, the day comes when they have to declare the great yes or the great no. It's clear at once who has the yes ready within him and saying it. He goes from honor to honor, strong in his conviction. He who refuses does not repent. Asked again, he'd still say no. Yet that no, the right no, drags him down all his life. Cavafy is widely considered the most distinguished Greek poet of the 20th century. He was born in Alexandria, Egypt, where his Greek parents had settled in the mid-1850s. Cavafy's father was an importer-exporter whose business responsibility frequently led him to the port city of Liverpool, England. Cavafy's father died in 1870, and the business he left in Alexandria proved insufficiently profitable for Cavafy's mother and 8 siblings. The family consequently moved to Liverpool, where the eldest sons assumed control of the family's business operations. Cavafy lived in England for much of his adolescence and developed both a command of the English language and a preference for the writings of William Shakespeare and Oscar Wilde. Cavafy's older brothers mismanaged the family business in Liverpool, and Cavafy's mother was ultimately compelled to move the family back to Alexandria, where they lived until 1882. Then Cavafy's mother, sensing danger, returned to Constantinople with Cavafy and the rest of her children. When the British bombarded Alexandria, the Cavafy family home was destroyed in the battle, and all the Cavafy's papers and books were lost. Cavafy remained in Constantinople with his mother until 1885. Many of his brothers had returned to Alexandria. At this time, Cavafy, a teenager, was writing poems, preparing for a career, and discovering his queerness, which would inform much of his later poetry. Cavafy eventually joined his older brothers in Alexandria and found work as a newspaper correspondent. In the late 1880s, he obtained a position as his brother's assistant at the Egyptian Stock Exchange, and he worked there for a few years before becoming a clerk in the Ministry of Public Works. Cavafy stayed at the ministry for the next 30 years, eventually becoming its assistant director. In 1933, 11 years after leaving the ministry, he died of cancer. During his lifetime, Cavafy was an obscure poet, living in relative seclusion and publishing little of his work. A short collection of his poetry was privately printed in the early 90s, and he reprinted with new verse a few years later, but that was the extent of his published poetry. Instead, Cavafy chose to circulate his verse among friends. This lack of concern for publication was due perhaps to the highly personal nature of many poems. Cavafy, who was gay, wrote many sexually explicit poems. Auden noted as much in his introduction in the 1961 volume, The Complete Poems of C.P. Cavafy, when he wrote, "Cavafy was a homosexual, and his erotic poems make no attempt to conceal the fact." Auden added, "As a witness, Cavafy is exceptionally honest. He neither bowdlerizes, nor glamorizes, nor giggles. The erotic world he depicts is one of the casual pickups and short-lived affairs. Love, there is rarely more than physical passion. At the same time, he refuses to pretend that his memories of moments of sensual pleasure are unhappy or spoiled by feelings of guilt. Cavafy was also an avid student of history, particularly ancient civilization, and in a great number of poems he subjectively rendered life during the Greek and Roman empires. Some of these poems, treating ancient times eventually, reads English novelist E.M. Forster, who was significantly impressed to write an essay entitled The Poetry of C.P. Cavafy, later published in Pharos and Pharelon. In this essay, Forster held Cavafy for providing a compelling alternative to conventional rendering of ancient Greece, and he described Cavafy's perspective as intensely subject scenery, cities, and legends all re-emerge in terms of the mind. Forster added, "Such a writer can never be popular. He flies both too slowly and too high. He has the strength of the recluse, who, though not afraid of the world, always stands at a slight angle to it." As a stylist, Cavafy was atypical. His language was flat, his delivery direct, whether he was writing about mortality, beauty, or despair, and whether he was writing about eroticism, the past, or the anxiety-inducing present. C.M. Bora, in the essay Constantine Cavafy and the Greek Past, published in The Creative Experiment, affirmed, Cavafy used neither Greek nor Western European models. Still less did he owe anything to the East. His manner was his own invention, the reflection of his temperament and his circumstances, guided by a natural instinct for words. Even in his language, he went his own way. Among Cavafy's most acclaimed poems is Waiting for the Barbarians, in which leaders in ancient Greece prepared to yield their land to barbarians only to discover that the barbarians so necessary to political and social change no longer exist. In Ithaca, another of Cavafy's highly regarded works, the poet evokes Homer's Odyssey in stressing the importance of the journey over the destination. And in poems such as The Battle of Magnesia and To Antiochus of Epiphanes, Cavafy emphasizes that decadence in a civilization leads to its destruction. Philip Serrer acknowledged this is the marble threshing floor studies in modern Greek poetry, when he wrote that such poems imply that the corruption and decadence of ancient Rome invites its own overthrow, that the Romans are simply the unconscious instruments in the execution of a sentence which those who live the superficial, self-indulgent life of the sense call down on themselves. Cavafy's more erotic poems treat themes similar to those addressed in his historical verse. In Alexandria Still, Forster, Durrell, and Cavafy, Jane Lagoudis Pinchin acknowledged this writing. Cavafy's love's poems build a 20th century mythological kingdom that has much in common with the crumbling world of ancient days. Here lovers meet on the stair of red brothels, at the theatre at the Café d'Or in front of the windows of the tobacco shop. They work in dull offices or for tailors, eromongers, or small shopkeepers. Like Ptolemy Philometor, they are often forced to beg. Like Antiochus Epiphanes, beloved, they give the perfect bodies for the rewards of the world. The mood is the same, but greater Greece is so much smaller than it was. Ultimately, Cavafy's erotic poems and historical verse are products of a singular vision, one which explores in various ways the gratifications and ramification of the pursuit of pleasure. Eroticism, history, and death are all part of what George Seferis, writing on the Greek style, calls Cavafy's panorama, and he observes all these things together make up the experience of his sensibility, uniform, contemporary, simultaneous, expressed his historical self. Let's read together the poem The City. You said, I'll go to another country. Go to another shore. Find another city better than this one. Whatever I try to do is fated to turn out wrong, and my heart lies buried like something dead. How long can I let my mind moulder in this place? Wherever I turn, wherever I look, I see the black ruins of my life here, where I've spent so many years, wasted them, destroyed them totally. You wouldn't find a new country, wouldn't find another shore. The city will always pursue you. You walk the same streets, grow old, in the same neighborhoods, turn grey in the same houses. You'll always end up in this city. Don't hope for things elsewhere. There is no ship for you. There is no road. Now that you wasted your life here, in this small corner, you've destroyed it everywhere in the world. And dear friends, let's see the same poem in the Greek language. Κωνσταντίνος Καβάφης, η Πόλις. Είπες, θα πάγω σ' άλλη γη, θα πάγω σ' άλλη θάλασσα. Μια πόλη σ' άλλη θα βρεθεί, καλύτερη από αυτή. Κάθε προσπάθειά μου μια καταδίκη είναι γραφτή. Κι είναι η καρδιά μου σαν νεκρός θα μένει. Ο νους μου ως πότε μες των μαρασμών αυτών θα μένει. Όπου το μάτι μου γυρίσω, όπου κι αν δω, ερείπια μαύρα της ζωής μου βλέπω εδώ, που τόσα χρόνια πέρασα και ρήμαξα και χάλασα. Καινούριους τόπους δεν θα βρεις. Δεν θα βρεις άλλες θάλασσες. Η πόλη θα σε ακολουθεί. Στους δρόμους θα γυρνάς τους ίδιους. Και στις γειτονιές τις ίδιες θα γερνάς. Και μες στα ίδια σπίτια αυτά θα σπρίζεις. Πάντα στην πόλη αυτή θα φτάνεις. Για τα αλλού μην ελπίζεις. Δεν έχει πλοίο για σε, δεν έχει οδό. Έτσι που τη ζωή σου ρήμαξες εδώ, στην κόχη τούτη τη μικρή, σ' όλην τη γη την χάλασες. A marvelous poem by Konstantinos Kavafis, a great Greek and international poet, respected and beloved. Dear ladies, dear gentlemen, thank you very much for this wonderful journey in the poetry of Konstantinos Cavafy, and many thanks to the Poetry Foundation that has this great dedication in our beloved poem. And of course, don't forget that we'll be together next week with another Greek poet that we admire and love. Hellenic Echo, Solomos Web Radio TV, here on Hellenic Cypriot Cultural Association. From Sissy Sigioultzi-Rouka, many greetings for a wonderful day or night, depending on the country where you are watching and listening us. Lots of love to you all.